The summer before my senior year changed everything. I was 16, spending most of my time either gaming or scrolling through social media. My parents both worked long hours at the hospital, so I had the house to myself most days. That's probably why I spent so much time online. It was better than being alone. I mainly stuck to Discord servers for the games I played, but I also had accounts on Instagram and Facebook where I'd post photos from gaming tournaments or hanging out with the few friends I had. That's where I met Jamie. They joined one of the smaller Discord servers I was part of, dedicated to speedrunning old Nintendo games. Jamie seemed to know everything about the games we discussed, and we quickly started messaging each other privately about strategies and techniques. Within a few weeks, we were talking daily about everything: school, family problems, future plans. Jamie was supposedly 17, lived about 2 hours away, and shared so many of my interests it felt too good to be true. After about 2 months of daily conversations, Jamie suggested meeting up at Riverside Mall, roughly halfway between our towns. They sent me photos of themselves. A teenager with brown hair and glasses, always wearing gaming-related t-shirts. The photos looked natural, taken at what seemed like school events or family gatherings. I showed my best friend Mark the photos, and he agreed they looked legitimate. Still, Mark insisted on coming with me to the mall, just to be safe. I agreed, mostly to stop him from telling my parents about the meetup. The day we planned to meet, Mark and I arrived at the mall around 1 p.m. Jamie had suggested meeting by the food court, saying they'd be wearing a blue Pokemon shirt and black jeans. Mark positioned himself at a table nearby, pretending to be busy with his phone while keeping an eye on things. I sat at the designated meeting spot, nervously checking my phone every few seconds. Jamie was supposed to arrive at 1:15 p.m. At 1:20 p.m., someone approached my table. It wasn't the person from the photos. Instead, it was a girl who looked about my age, with dyed red hair and a nose ring. She introduced herself as Jamie's cousin Sarah, explaining that Jamie had gotten nervous about meeting alone and asked her to come along. She said Jamie was waiting in the GameStop nearby, too anxious to come to the food court. Sarah seemed friendly and completely normal, showing me texts from Jamie on her phone confirming the story. I texted Mark that I was heading to GameStop with Sarah. He responded saying he'd follow at a distance. As we walked, Sarah chatted about video games and seemed to know all the details of conversations I'd had with Jamie. She even brought up specific speedrunning strategies we'd discussed. Everything felt legitimate, which is why I didn't question it when she suggested taking a shortcut through the service corridor to avoid the crowded main walkway. The service corridor was empty and poorly lit. I remember feeling a slight sense of unease, but Sarah was still talking casually about games. We passed through a heavy door, and I assumed we were taking a back route to GameStop. Instead, we emerged into the loading dock area. Before I could process what was happening, someone grabbed me from behind. I tried to scream, but a hand clamped over my mouth. The last thing I remember was Sarah's face, no longer friendly, just cold and empty, as someone pressed something against my neck. I have fragmented memories of the next 3 days. A dark room with concrete floors, the smell of motor oil and cigarettes, multiple voices arguing, constant pain. They kept me drugged most of the time, but I remember Sarah's voice, much harsher now, making phone calls about merchandise and shipping dates. I learned later that they were part of a trafficking ring that used social media to target teenagers. Mark saved my life. When I didn't emerge from the service corridor, he immediately alerted mall security. The security cameras had captured everything. Me entering the corridor with Sarah, and then being carried out unconscious through the loading dock to a waiting van. The police were able to track the van's license plate to an abandoned warehouse outside the city. They found me on the 3rd day, barely conscious but alive. Sarah and her accomplices were arrested trying to flee the scene. It's been 8 months since then. I'm still in therapy, working through the trauma. The police found 7 other teenagers who had been taken by the same group, all lured through various social media platforms. The real Jamie never existed. The photos were stolen from someone's private Instagram account, and the Discord account had been created specifically to target me. Sarah and her partners are in prison now, but sometimes I still wake up smelling motor oil and cigarettes. I haven't played any video games since then. The thought of connecting with anyone online makes me feel physically ill. My therapist says that's normal, that it will take time to heal. But I know I'll never see social media the same way again. Every friendly message could be hiding something sinister. Every profile picture could be a mask. The scariest part is knowing that right now, someone else is probably falling for the same trap I did. Working late has become my norm since taking over the family business. That Tuesday night, I was going through quarterly reports when a Facebook notification popped up on my screen. I almost ignored it until I saw the name, Katie Mitchell, my sister, who had died 2 years ago in a car accident. I stared at the notification for several minutes. Katie's account had been preserved as a memorial page. I know because I was the one who contacted Facebook to set it up. The message was simple. Remember the purple elephant? My hands started shaking. The purple elephant was our secret code from childhood, something we used to verify notes we passed in class were really from each other. We never told anyone else about it. I clicked on Katie's profile. Everything looked normal at first. The memorial banner was still there. The profile picture was still her graduation photo. But then I noticed recent activity, comments on news articles from last week, a shared recipe from 3 days ago. My throat went dry as I scrolled through the activity log. It showed steady activity for the past 3 months. Another message arrived. Check Mom's attic. The shoebox with the butterfly stickers. My heart was pounding. That box contained our childhood mementos, including diaries we'd written to each other about our deepest secrets. No one else knew about that box. We'd hidden it the summer before Katie left for college, promising to read them together when we were old and gray. I drove to our mother's house at midnight. She was visiting relatives in Florida, so I used my emergency key. The attic was exactly as we'd left it years ago. The butterfly box was still there, tucked behind an old dresser. But when I opened it, my blood ran cold. The diaries were gone. Everything else, photos, trinkets, old toys, was still there, but our most private thoughts had vanished. The police were skeptical when I reported it. How could I explain that my dead sister was messaging me? That someone had stolen our childhood secrets? They suggested grief counseling, but then more messages started coming. References to specific diary entries, intimate details about family vacations, things only Katie and I knew. The breaking point came when I noticed discrepancies in the family business accounts. Small transfers to unknown accounts starting exactly 3 months ago, when Katie's profile became active again. I hired a private investigator, showing him everything. He discovered that someone had been systematically gathering information about our family for months before Katie's death. The trail led to a storage unit rented under a fake name. Inside, they found boxes of documents, our family's financial records, copies of identification documents, and photos taken through windows of our homes. But most disturbing were the notebooks filled with handwritten copies of entries from our childhood diaries, along with detailed plans for using our personal information. The identity theft ring had been watching us long before Katie's accident. They'd broken into our mother's house months before Katie died, stealing the diaries and gathering information. They had planned to use Katie's identity eventually, but her death accelerated their timeline. They knew that a deceased person's identity was less likely to be monitored closely. The investigation revealed that one of the criminals worked at the hospital where Katie died. They had access to her death certificate and social security information. They'd been playing a long game, waiting 2 years before slowly beginning to use her identity to access our family's finances. The messages to me weren't a mistake. They were a calculated move to see how much I knew, to test what information they could use without raising suspicion. 4 people were arrested in connection with the scheme. They'd been running similar operations across 3 states, targeting families who had lost loved ones. The trial revealed how they meticulously collected personal information, sometimes spending years preparing to steal a single identity. They knew that grief made people vulnerable, less likely to question strange occurrences. I've become paranoid about security since then. Every social media notification makes my heart race. I've installed cameras throughout my house and office. The family business now has triple verification for any financial transactions. But the worst part isn't the fear of theft, it's the violation of Katie's memory. Those messages forced me to relive her death while simultaneously corrupting every childhood memory we shared. Sometimes I still catch myself staring at her memorial page, wondering if I'll see new activity. The purple elephant doesn't make me smile anymore. Instead, it reminds me that nothing is truly private, that even our most precious memories can be weaponized against us. The criminals are in prison now, but I know there are others out there, watching, waiting, collecting information about families like mine. They're patient. They know that grief makes us vulnerable, and they know how to use our memories against us. My mom's obsession with digitizing our old family photos started after Dad passed away. She spent weeks scanning everything: birthdays, holidays, school events, family vacations. She uploaded them all to a cloud storage account we shared, saying she never wanted to risk losing these memories to time or accidents. I was sorting through job applications one evening when my phone buzzed. It was my friend Taylor sending me a strange Instagram link. "Is this you?" she asked. I clicked it, expecting maybe an old embarrassing photo she'd found. Instead, it opened to an account I'd never seen before, @PerfectGourdFamilyMemories. The most recent post stopped my breath. It was me, age 7, at Disney World. The caption read, "My beautiful Emily's first trip to Disney. She was so excited to meet Mickey. Blessed, daughter, memories 2008. But my name isn't Emily, and this photo was from 1998, not 2008. I scrolled through the profile. Every single photo featured me at different ages, but the captions told a completely different story. There I was at my 10th birthday party, but the caption claimed it was Emily's Sweet 16. My middle school graduation photo was labeled as Emily's first day of high school 2019. The account had over 300 posts, all of them my childhood photos with fabricated stories. The profile belonged to someone named Margaret Chen, who claimed to be a single mother living in Seattle. I immediately checked our cloud storage account. Everything was still there, but when I looked at the access log, I discovered multiple unknown devices had viewed the photos over the past year. Someone had gotten into our account. They hadn't stolen the photos, they'd simply downloaded copies. I reported the account to Instagram, but my hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. Then I noticed the messages. Hundreds of them, between Margaret and other users. She had built entire conversations around my photos, discussing Emily's achievements, her personality, her struggles. She knew details about each photo, the locations, the events, the people with me, because they were all documented in our cloud storage file names. The next morning, I started digging deeper. Margaret Chen had other social media accounts: Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, all featuring my photos. She'd created an entire digital life using my childhood. There were birthday wishes from other users, comments about how much Emily looked like her mother, even long threads discussing Emily's college plans. The police cybercrimes unit was surprisingly interested when I reported it. Apparently, Margaret Chen wasn't just stealing photos. She was running a complex scheme, accepting donations from followers for Emily's college fund and medical treatments for various invented illnesses. She had scammed people out of thousands of dollars using my images to create sympathy. The investigation revealed that Margaret Chen worked at a data storage company, the same company that hosted our cloud storage. She had access to thousands of personal accounts. The police found dozens of folders on her work computer, each containing photos stolen from different families. She was running multiple fake accounts, each with its own elaborate fictional family story. When they searched her apartment, they found something even more disturbing. She had created physical photo albums of her fake families, including one dedicated entirely to Emily. My whole childhood was there, carefully arranged and labeled with false dates and events. She had even written detailed diary entries about each photo, imagining herself as my mother in those moments. The worst part was discovering that she lived only 20 minutes from my apartment. She had noted my current address in her files. There were recent photos of my apartment building in her phone, taken from across the street. She had been watching me, perhaps planning to approach her daughter in person. I've moved since then, to a building with better security. I've deleted all my social media accounts and removed every photo from cloud storage. My mom keeps the physical photos in a safe deposit box now. But I can't stop thinking about those fake photo albums, about the woman who spent years pretending to be my mother. Sometimes I catch myself checking random family accounts online, wondering if my photos are still out there somewhere, being used to tell another fictional story. Every time I see a camera now, I wonder where that photo might end up, what story it might be forced to tell. The digital world has made it so easy to steal not just images, but entire lives. Our memories aren't just ours anymore. They can be copied, twisted, and repurposed by anyone with enough determination. I haven't taken a single photo since this happened. Some memories, I've decided, are better left undocumented.